Remember when a movie studio spent $50 million on a comedy about the worst football players in America and accidentally created a time capsule that would outlive half its cast? I still remember the first time I saw this movie. It was a random Sunday afternoon on TBS. I was just flipping channels, not looking for anything in particular. And then I landed on this scene, Keanu Reeves and the whole team in that holding cell singing "I Will Survive" at the top of their lungs. I had no idea what was going on, but I couldn't stop watching. 20 minutes later, I was still sitting there, completely sucked in. That's how this movie gets you. You think you're just gonna watch 10 minutes, and suddenly it's the fourth quarter. Here's what I can tell you. I spent weeks pulling this movie apart, and the deeper I went, the stranger it got. You'll find out which cast member reportedly slashed his own salary just to share the screen with a living legend. You'll learn that the guy doing Keanu's stunts in this football comedy would one day direct the biggest action franchise of the century. And you'll discover which actor played a convict in the movie, then became one in real life. But stick around for number one. The real replacement story, the one this movie was based on, has an ending that took 31 years to happen. It will hit you harder than anything else on this list. Before we dive in, if you're the kind of person who still watches this movie every time it shows up on cable, hit subscribe. You're exactly where you belong. Let's go. 17 facts you didn't know about the replacements. Number 17. The polite battle cry. Jumbo Fumiko, 300 pounds of sumo fury crammed into a football uniform. Every time he hit the line, he screamed two words that sounded like they could split a helmet in half. Nan deska, nan deska. Terrifying, primal, the kind of sound that makes grown men reconsider their career choices. Except nan deska in Japanese means, "What is this?" That's it. Not a warrior chant, not a death threat. A polite question you'd ask a waiter about today's special. The man was sprinting at 300-pound linemen yelling the Japanese version of "Excuse me, what?" and nobody corrected it because nobody on set knew. Next time you rewatch that scene, you'll never unhear it. Number 16. The year that never existed. Ever notice how everyone in this movie keeps hammering Shane Falco about his meltdown at the 1996 Sugar Bowl? His coach brings it up. Strangers bring it up. The man can't buy groceries without someone mentioning it. One small detail. There was no 1996 Sugar Bowl. The game after the 95 season was played on December 31st, 95. The one after the 96 season landed on January 2nd, 97. Screenwriter Vince McEwen deliberately picked that empty year. No real game, no real team, no real lawsuits. If you're inventing a quarterback's worst nightmare, don't accidentally insult somebody else's. Number 15. Pretty in Pink to Pigskin. The Replacements was directed by Howard Deutsch. That name might not ring a bell, but his first movie will. Pretty in Pink, 1986. He followed that with Some Kind of Wonderful, then The Great Outdoors. The man built his career on John Hughes scripts and Brat Pack energy. He met his wife on the set of Some Kind of Wonderful, Leah Thompson. You know her. She's Lorraine McFly in Back to the Future. Their daughter is Zoe Deitch, who's now a star in her own right. So yes, the person behind this football fever dream also directed one of the most beloved teen movies of the 80s and went home every night to Marty McFly's mum, Hollywood Man. Number 14. 23 pounds of proof. Keanu Reeves put on 23 pounds for this role. Not CGI, not a body double, actual weight. The entire cast went through a multi-week football training camp run by Alan Graff and Mark Ellis, coordinators who'd worked on some of the biggest football movies of the 90s. Reeves impressed everyone with his speed and footwork. Orlando Jones later joked about the on-set hierarchy. Hackman can't get hurt. Keanu can't get hurt. Orlando Jones, knock his block off. But that dedication would lead to a rumor so wild it followed Keanu for over 2 decades. We'll get there in a second. Number 13. System Fet. The tryout nobody can prove. Here it is. According to draft analyst Matt Miller and several sources, The Baltimore Ravens, whose stadium the movie was filming in, reportedly offered Keanu Reeves a real tryout at quarterback. Let that land. A Hollywood actor, playing a fictional QB, offered a shot at the real thing. The story circulated for years. Fans debated it. Sports blogs picked it up. Then Keanu finally addressed it in an interview. His response, "That's absolutely ridiculous." Huge grin. "I got okay, but that is ridiculous." Then he mimed throwing a 50-yard pass and laughed. I love this fact because nobody knows what's actually true. Did someone casually mention it as a joke? Did a coach half-seriously float the idea? We'll probably never know, but I love that the rumor exists. It's gloriously unhinged, and so is this entire movie. Next time you watch Falco throw that last-second touchdown, just remember, somewhere in Baltimore, a real coach once looked at that and thought, maybe. Number 12. The Silent Debut. I wasn't ready for this one. David Denman, the guy who played Brian Murphy, the deaf tight end who catches the game-winning touchdown, trained at Juilliard, same class as Alan Tudyk. The Replacements was his very first film role, ever. His big-screen debut, a silent football player who saves the game without hearing a single play call. 5 years later, he landed the role that changed everything. Roy Anderson, The Office, Pam's ex, the warehouse guy who smashed a bar with his bare hands, from deaf tight end to jealous ex-fiancé. That's range. Number 11. The movie that refused to die. $50 million. That's what Warner Bros. Spent making this movie. And it grossed, wait for it, $50.1 million worldwide. Opened at number 4 its first weekend, behind Space Cowboys, Hollow Man, and a Richard Gere romance nobody remembers. Rotten Tomatoes, 41%. Metacritic, 30 out of 100. On paper, a dumpster fire. But here's the thing about The Replacements. It refused to die. It became the kind of movie cable channels played every Sunday afternoon between September and February. The kind of movie where you'd flip past it, watch 10 minutes, and suddenly it's the fourth quarter and you haven't moved. If you were born between 1975 and 1990, there's a solid chance you've seen this movie at least 4 times, and never once on purpose. The underdog story about underdogs became an underdog itself, and it's still standing. Number 10. The Prophecy Nobody Planned. The Replacements filmed at PSINet Stadium in Baltimore, home of the Baltimore Ravens. 20,000 extras packed the stands for crowd shots. The fictional Sentinels played their hearts out on that field. Now here's where reality gets weird. The movie hit theaters August 11th, 2000. Less than 6 months later, January 28th, 2001, the Baltimore Ravens won Super Bowl 35, down in Tampa, but their home field, the same one this movie was filmed on, for real. The film crew rented a stadium to pretend an underdog football team could win it all. Then the actual team who called that stadium home went out and won a championship. I don't know if that's a coincidence or a prophecy, but I know it's the kind of detail that makes you stare at the ceiling for a minute. And we're only halfway done. All right, quick pause. We just covered 8 facts, and my head is already spinning. Which one got you so far? The Sugar Bowl that didn't exist? Keanu's tryout that may or may not have happened? Drop your number in the comments. I'll be honest with you. For a long time, I thought second chances were kind of a myth. Like, if you messed up bad enough, or if you missed your shot, that was it. Game over. But I had my own version of that a few years ago. I almost walked away from something that mattered to me because I was scared I'd already blown it, and it took someone else believing in me, when I didn't, to actually take the shot. That's probably why this movie hits me harder than it should. Because at the end of the day, it's not really about football. It's about getting one more chance when you think you don't deserve it. If you haven't hit that like button yet, now's your moment. Because the next 9 facts are where things get heavy. We've got a future Marvel director hiding in this cast, a stunt double who became one of the most powerful directors in Hollywood, and a story about an actor that I genuinely struggled to write. Smash like. Let's keep going. Number 9. The psycho cop who built an empire before the Marvel Cinematic Universe, before Baby Yoda, before Elf, before any of it. Jon Favreau was Daniel Bateman, a SWAT officer with anger management issues who gets recruited as a linebacker. He ran around that field like a man possessed, tackling everything that moved, biting, screaming. The reviews that trashed the movie almost universally praised him. Variety called him scene-stealing. Fans called him the best part of the film. 3 years later, he directed Elf. 8 years later, he directed Iron Man and kicked off the MCU. He created The Mandalorian. The man who played a psychotic cop in a football comedy built the biggest entertainment franchise on the planet. I probably shouldn't tell you that this is my favorite fact on the list, but here we are. Number 8. The name nobody noticed. This one's going to break your brain. Look at the credits for The Replacements. Buried deep in the stunt section, you'll find one name: Chad Stahelski, Keanu Reeves' stunt double. Stahelski started his career as a stunt double for Brandon Lee on The Crow in '94. After Lee's fatal on-set accident, Stahelski helped complete the film. His body was used with Lee's face digitally superimposed. Then he became Keanu's double on The Matrix, then on The Replacements, then the Matrix sequels, then Constantine. 14 years after catching footballs for Keanu on this set, Chad Stahelski co-directed John Wick. He's directed every installment since. The franchise that turned Keanu into a pop culture phenomenon all over again started with a guy who once did his football stunts. They went from a forgettable sports comedy to building an empire together. That's not a career path, that's a movie plot. Number 7. The song that saved the movie, I Will Survive. You know the scene. The Replacements get arrested after a bar brawl. They're sitting in a holding cell, bruised, defeated, miserable. Then Orlando Jones starts singing, softly at first. Gloria Gaynor, I Will Survive. One by one, the whole team joins in, dancing, line dancing, Keanu Reeves included. The song appears 3 times in the movie: the jail scene, the final celebration, and sprinkled in between. Director Howard Deitch leaned on it so hard that one critic accused him of committing murder with a disco song. But fans didn't care. That jail scene became the movie's heartbeat. The moment it stopped being a generic sports comedy and turned into something people actually remembered. Every friend group has a jail dance moment. The night that went sideways but brought everyone closer. This scene captured that perfectly. Number 6. The strike that started everything. Let's talk about where this story actually came from. 1987. The NFL Players Association went on strike after week 2 of the season. They wanted unrestricted free agency, better pensions, basic rights that baseball players already had. The league's owners responded by canceling 1 week of games, then filling rosters with replacement players and continuing the season. Those replacements were called scabs, bartenders, semi-pros, a guy who'd been stocking shelves the week before. Fans gave the makeshift teams nicknames: the Chicago Spare Bears, the Seattle Sea Scabs. But the Washington Redskins replacements, they went 3-0 without a single regular player crossing the picket line. They beat the Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football. And those 3 wins helped the Redskins reach and eventually win Super Bowl 22. Now here's the part that divides people. The Replacements turns that story into an underdog fairy tale. Scabs become heroes, striking players become villains, and critics have called the movie everything from harmless fun to anti-union propaganda. The NFLPA wasn't thrilled either. Was it a love letter to second chances, or a $50 million endorsement of union busting dressed in a Keanu Reeves jersey? I'll let you fight that one out in the comments. Number 5. The real replacement. Michael Taliaferro played Andre Jackson, one half of the Jackson twins. Massive, intimidating. 6'6", 280 pounds. The kind of screen presence that made you believe he could play professional football. Because he did. Taliaferro was signed by the Washington Redskins as an undrafted free agent. The actual Washington Redskins. The team whose real-life replacement story inspired this movie. He went on to play defensive tackle in the USFL for the Denver Gold and the Arizona Outlaws. Then a season with the BC Lions in the Canadian Football League. A real football player who once suited up for the Washington Redskins. The same franchise whose replacement story inspired this entire movie, cast as a fictional version of the very thing he almost was. That level of irony doesn't get written, it just happens. Taliaferro left us in 2006, a stroke. He was 44 years old, and if you're keeping count, that's not the last person from this cast we'll be talking about. Number 4. The Ghosts in the Frame. Remember what I said at the beginning about a time capsule? Let me show you what I mean. Old Dirty Bastard, founding member of the Wu-Tang Clan, has a cameo in this movie, credited as ODB. He left us in 2004. He was 35. Drug overdose in a Manhattan recording studio. John Madden and Pat Summerall played themselves, calling the games from the booth, exactly like they did on your television every Sunday. Summerall passed in 2013, Madden in 2021, and Jack Warden, the two-time Oscar nominee who played team owner Edward O'Neill, never made another movie after this. He retired immediately. His health was already failing. He passed in 2006. 4 people in this film, gone, and we're not done yet. Number 3. The Voice That Stayed. February 2025. Gene Hackman was found dead in his Santa Fe home alongside his wife, Betsy Arakawa. He was 95, cause of death, heart disease, compounded by advanced Alzheimer's. His wife had passed roughly a week earlier from hantavirus, a rare infection carried by mice. Hackman had retired from acting in 2004 after Welcome to Mooseport. He spent his final decades writing novels, living quietly, disappearing from Hollywood so completely that most people assumed he'd already gone. But here's the detail that stays with me. After The Replacements, Hackman was asked to narrate an episode of NFL Network's America's Game, the one about the real 1987 Washington Redskins, the actual replacement story. He said yes. The man who played the fictional coach told the true story of the real team, fiction and reality, stitched together by the same voice. That voice is gone now, but it's still here, in this movie, in that documentary. Some performances don't just entertain, they preserve something. Number 2. When fiction became real. In the movie, Michael Jace plays Earl Wilkinson, a football player on loan from prison. The scary, quiet guy, the one even the coaches are afraid to stand near. He was supposed to be the character you laughed nervously about. Outside the movie, Jace was best known as Officer Julian Lowe on The Shield, a cop struggling with his conscience across 7 seasons of one of the best dramas ever made. On May 19, 2014, Jace called 911 and admitted to shooting his wife, April. Their 10-year-old son testified in court. He told the jury his father said, "If you like running, run to heaven," then fired. Jace was convicted of second-degree murder, sentenced to 40 years to life. He's currently serving time at Corcoran State Prison. He played a convict on screen. He became one in real life. That's not irony, that's nightmare fuel. I sat with this fact for a long time before deciding to include it, but it's part of this movie's story now. You can't separate what's on the screen from what happened after the cameras stopped. And that brings us to number 1. But first, take a breath. This entire countdown, I've been circling one idea, one thread. A movie that was supposed to be disposable summer entertainment somehow captured the last moments of people and stories that matter more than anyone realized at the time. Fact number 1 is where it all comes together. Number 1. The cut that changed everything. When Warner Bros. Greenlit The Replacements, Keanu Reeves was the hottest actor on the planet. The Matrix had just made him a god. His asking price, reportedly around $12 million, almost a quarter of the film's entire budget. Gene Hackman was the dream choice for Coach McGinty, two-time Oscar winner, The French Connection, Unforgiven, absolute royalty. But the studio couldn't afford both of them. The budget was $50 million. There was no more money. So Keanu did something. According to the Wall Street Journal, he cut his own salary, reportedly by millions, and told the studio to use the difference to hire Hackman, not for publicity, not for leverage, because he wanted to work with the man. That's how Gene Hackman ended up in a football comedy, because another actor paid for it out of his own pocket. Now hold that thought and rewind to 1987. The real Washington Redskins replacement players won 3 games that mattered, 3 games that put the franchise in position for a Super Bowl championship. And when the regular players came back and lifted that trophy, the replacements got nothing. No ring, no ceremony. Some of them reportedly had their cars vandalized by the regulars just for crossing that line. 31 years passed. Then in 2018, the organization finally gave those players their Super Bowl rings. One replacement named Eric Coyle had been so heartbroken that he'd made himself a fake ring years earlier. 31 years of carrying that weight before someone said you mattered. Me. This movie was a joke to most critics, a throwaway August release that barely broke even, but look at what it held. Jack Warden's final performance. Gene Hackman before Alzheimer's took him, a future Marvel architect learning his craft, a future John Wick director doing stunt work in the background, a real Redskins player reliving his own history through fiction, a Wu-Tang legend clowning on camera for the last time. The Replacements was about a team of nobodies who got one shot and made it count. And the movie itself, it got the same deal. A second chance it never asked for. A time capsule nobody knew they were building. Pain heals, chicks dig scars, glory lasts forever. So does film. The Replacements was supposed to be disposable, a forgettable summer comedy, but 26 years later, it's still here, still on cable, still getting quoted at barbecues, still making people feel something they can't quite name. Maybe that's the whole point. The best second chances are the ones nobody sees coming. So which fact hit you the hardest? Drop your number in the comments. And here's a question I genuinely want your take on. Was this movie a harmless underdog story or a $50 million love letter to union busting? I want to hear both sides. Go.